raises what I think is the absolutely crucial question. So Biden has come up with this $1.5 trillion infrastructure program to feed some money into the semiconductor industry, the U.S. solar panel industry. The point is that in order for free world industry and business to leave the theater, there's going to need to be an outside government incentive. The incentive can be, on the one hand, the government can put up money to offset some of the losses. And on the other hand, the government has sticks. It has carrots and it has sticks. You have to keep in mind that all of these high-tech companies, their technology, much of it came from the government. And so I think, using its technology leverage on the one hand and its financial potential on the other hand, the U.S. government, but not just the U.S. government, the EU governments, the Japanese government are going to have to orchestrate their own industrial policy. And I think this is a very critical point. For a long time, our economists have promoted the coupling with China. And our economists have done that on the grounds that, hey, it's trade, and we want to get products made at the cheapest possible cost so that our consumers can have inexpensive products to buy. And hey, if China can make semiconductors cheaper than in America, well, so be it. Then let Intel go to China and make semiconductors. That's the economist's argument. But what the economists miss is that, hey, those semiconductors are critical to national security. China is threatening to invade Taiwan. China is militarizing the South China Sea. We need to maintain semiconductor superiority in order to respond to that technological threat, that very real technological threat, where our economists have a huge blind spot, and that blind spot is going to have to get enlightened in order to enable our policymakers to apply the kinds of sticks and carrots that are necessary.
Do you think that the Biden administration or, Japan, the EU, the US, do you think that there is the political will to do what you're advising?
Well, I would say I'm encouraged so far. Biden has come up with this 1.5 trillion. In my view, it's not enough, but hey, it's a step in the right direction. Biden has not backed off. And very interestingly, a lot of business people thought that Biden would remove the tariffs that Trump imposed. He hasn't done that. And I think that if I look at the Europeans did not sign the investment treaty that they were negotiating with China. Japanese are becoming much, much more concerned about Taiwan. We're not going to have a political race in Japan. One of the key candidates, a guy named Kono Taro, is very hard. Very much an American ally in these kinds of questions. So I'm encouraged, but I've been in this game a long time, and I have great respect for the ability of the Chinese Communist Party to organize, to play the long game, to take advantage of instances when it has coercive power. And I know that democratic governments operate on a shorter time frame and are more subject to outside influence. So what I feel is that I'm encouraged by what Biden and the rest of the major free world players have been doing. And I just hope that we kind of continue moving in that direction. And I mean, interestingly, the Chinese themselves, sometimes they make mistakes. And so Xi now has just wiped out a big piece of the Chinese education industry. Xi is now telling families, you can't send your kids to to the special study school to get into the top universities. No more SAT promoters in China. And she is suddenly looking a little bit like Mao. I don't know if you noticed it or not, but he gave the 100th anniversary party speech. And if you looked at the scene in Tiananmen Square, she stood directly over the portrait of Mao, and he dressed in a Mao suit. Normally, she wears Western, but that day he dressed Mao. And Mao had his little red book. Has got Xi Jinping thought. So there are a lot of interesting things happening in China, which indicate that there are potentially stumbles that the Chinese Communist Party can make as well.
Yeah, I was wondering about the recent moves that they've made in the market to obviously discouraging some Chinese companies from IPOing in the US and bringing their money overseas anymore, wanting to open an exchange in Beijing, and kind of rocking the market with this whole talk of common prosperity, essentially like, companies going to have to redistribute your wealth, through the party to other better ways to use the money. Is that actually spooking Wall Street? Because then, BlackRock still comes out and says, we got to triple our investments in China.
Yeah. If assuming that, for sake of argument, if Xi and the party continue down the road that they seem to be on at the moment, I think ultimately that's bad for Larry Fink. He's not going to be able to maintain the strategy that he has adopted. If I'm Tim Cook and I'm looking at Jack Ma of Alibaba, and I'm saying, holy catfish, Jack Ma's Chinese. He's got connections. And they just stripped him, basically. What can they do to me? So I don't know how Tim is reacting, but if it were me, I'd be thinking hard about somehow diversifying and decoupling in some way.